Hey, Piero. I really love time. I'm glad we're talking about this. I also watched Lord of Malation's video, and it seems that what you're saying is that we know that change exists because perceptions continually arise. They flow. There is a passage of perceptions. We're not just in a static present. We move through time, and that's given. That's a fact. And of course, I agree with that. But I don't think that this means that time doesn't exist. Now, what you seem to be saying is that time, what we think of as time, is our particular human way, cultural way, even, because different human beings conceive of time in their own unique ways. But our particular way of conceiving of time isn't necessarily the objective meaning of the phenomenon of change, of movement, of becoming. We don't know what becoming is what you're saying, and that follows from um, your foundational skepticism. Of course, we can't say what anything is, time or anything else. But I would say that time does exist in this sense. I agree that we can't conceptualize time. Time, though, is the source of concepts because all concepts are somehow historically embedded. They emerged over a period of time. Now, when it comes to the past and the future, um, I don't think that we can ask whether they exist somewhere else than the present. I think the past and the future are real because we experience them in the present. Um, we can have various ideas about the past and the future that aren't true, but nonetheless, we do experience the past and the future in our given experience of the present. The future manifests itself in the present in many ways. Sometimes it manifests itself as anxiety, sometimes as anticipation, sometimes excitement. Um, Whenever we hold to certain ideas or ideals, these are tensions that we sort of store inside ourselves, awaiting the occasion in the future, which will become present, in which we can then activate those tensions, release them into the world at the appropriate time. Um, you know, just in our given present experience, that's one. Those are a few ways in which we experience the future. The past is also experienced in the present as nostalgia, regret, memories of all kinds. Um, Anything that we learn, that we come to know, and are able to, apply and use and bring to life in the present, all of that is memory. It's the past capable of being activated and experienced in the present. Um, to think of the future and the past as these, to conceptualize them as places outside of the place which is present, I think is to falsely spatialize time, as this guy Jean Gebser would say, which just means to conceive of time in a spatial way, to think of time as a container of some kind, and that we're trapped within it in a slice called now, in between, um, a definite future and a possible, or a definite past and a possible future. Um, to be sort of trapped in that moment. And I think, if there is, getting back to the discussion about metaphysics, if there remains any aspect of our experience that still requires metaphysical exploration, it's time. We know nothing about time. Physics knows plenty about space and matter and energy, but time, you know, the difficulty and the absurdity of quantum physics and of thermodynamics before quantum physics is this issue of time. It can't be conceptualized. The equations of physics say that it's reversible and homogeneous, but our actual experience shows us that every moment is different, heterogeneous, and that there's an irreversible direction to time. And you can't rationally understand or mechanically understand how that is possible. It implies that there's a reason and a purpose for the becoming of time, that it's not just an empty, quantifiable measure of change, but is not only change, but development, evolution, directional change. Um, and this is why I really love time, because it allows us to bridge the gap between subject and object, or mind and matter, consciousness and um, matter in the phenomenal world. Because when we recognize that our cosmos is really a cosmogenesis, that it's a process of becoming, it's an event, a 14 billion year long event so far, it's still going somewhere, it's not finished. Um, that fundamentally alters, not only our perspective of time, obviously, but of matter and energy and space. Um, all of those, matter, energy, and space, are products of time, of process. They emerge in time. Time becomes fundamental, though. So not only does time exist, that time is the essence of existence. Um, what is time? I think I agree with Plato. It's a moving image of eternity, because time is evolutionary, because it is constantly outdoing itself, transcending itself. Every movement of or mutation of um, form in this process of becoming is sort of eternity inserting itself into history. It's a creative moment of expression that hadn't been given prior, that seems to emerge in the moment to allow a new future to unfold. The presence of eternity in time. So time is a very spiritual notion. It forces you to think outside of your material assumptions, because when you think of the universe in a temporal way, as a universe that has an origin, it was born 13.7 billion years ago in what we call the Big Bang. It wasn't really an explosion, because time and space were created in this release of potential energy from the quantum vacuum. Um, when you consider that, you realize that matter and energy have a non-material origin. Matter came from nothing, but a special kind of nothing. Um, and in that kind of a context, a lot of things become possible, if we had assumed materialism, a lot of things become possible that we would have thought were impossible. So, the future isn't just an idea in our head that would be to falsely spatialize it. Um, the future is always part of the past as it emerges in the present. And so our head, our brain, is one aspect of the present moment of this entire universe, which is a moment in process. Um, it's not a present fixed here now in some static cosmos. The cosmos itself is an event. We are part of it. And so our experience of the present includes the Big Bang and, whatever eventually this universe is falling into. Um, so, I would agree with you, though, that we can't have perfect knowledge of the future. The future isn't something we can predict exactly. What characterizes the future is its novelty, and what characterizes the past is its habituality. But we can't predict the future. But the presence of the future is what assures our own freedom. Um, we can't predict it, but we can participate in it, because our habit allows us to participate in the newness of the future. It allows us to create. Um, Creativity is possible because the future is present with whatever